Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boom and Bust channel, Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host Terry, and today we're going to be looking at Marvin Harrison and Odunze on the film. So again, we got some dope people, some cool people that really took some time out to put these packages together. So these are all the targets and catches. Obviously, we're not going to watch all of it. That would take way too long, especially for two people. I honestly just kind of randomly picked a little bit. I was going to go more towards the mid-year and then just go from there. But I know that Notre Dame is probably one that people wanted to see for Marvin. But it was no real particular thing other than that. So I know people going to be like, well, you should have did this game, or you should have did this, or we should have saw this play. This isn't really about highlights, even though these are all targets. If I could, I would love to just see every play. So that way, because really, especially with receivers, I want to see the day-to-day play, so to speak. I don't need to see just the ones that you tried on. I want to see the blocking. I want to see when you're not getting the ball. But this is what we got, and so we're gonna roll through it. Once we probably get a good feel, I don't have a particular idea in mind, and then we'll switch over, watch some Odunze, and yeah, we'll call it a wrap. So let's go ahead. We'll start. This doesn't highlight, but Marvin's right there, and we'll go at half speed too, so we can really see. So this is against Western Kentucky, just on a fly pattern. Or go route, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's Western Kentucky. These guys had no shot. And I saw this was a touchdown, so I did start it here because I really wanted to get to the next game. But, again, I know people, well, you missed this play. So it's Western Kentucky, so you take that how you want. Obviously, that was just pure speed. So we got Marvin down here. I like him uncovering off the line. There was no jam. So again, part of this is me to walk you through what I look at as well. So no jam. How do you uncover? And Marvin, one thing I said about him is the hips aren't super fluid, but he does have a great plant and drive. So once he plants that foot, he drives hard. So in the boundary, no real separation, and I believe that's Cam Hart that's covering him most of the night. Oh, sorry, they're going to replay that anyway. So, as you can see, doesn't really jam him, just matches him, and he's got a lot of sides, but being physical with him. So, no separation, no real route, just straight up ball skills, body control, attacking the ball. So here, again, there's activity, but doesn't really get the corner off his spot. Doesn't make him believe he's doing anything. So he's able to drive on that ball. So now Marvin's in the slot. Again, kind of gives him a shake. Different corner, goes inside. Ball's behind him, good adjustment, makes the catch. But the understanding, now I think most receivers, there was a time not too long ago, a lot of receivers didn't understand how to set up and stem off the line. Most receivers, I think, know how to do that or know to do it, but doesn't mean they're good at it. So again, we got a fade route. And we'll go back to the top. Actually, is Cam Hart 5? I don't remember which one is Cam. But again, I don't know that, especially when he's going vertical, that the stems are too sudden to get a corner off guard. So then at that point, again, not really off guard. So now he's got to win with just being physical, making sure to outfight, hand fight the corner. Ball's just a little bit too far from him. But again, that separation, not really there. And that happens a lot with a lot of receivers. And this isn't really a lot of the all 22 like some of them, but we do get these replays. So we got off coverage, zone, linebacker or 13, whoever did a kind of good job. But again, just adjusting to that. You see him making catches away from his body. You see the ball skills. You see the hand-eye coordination. Again, little separation. Not a lot you could do there. And of course, in the NFL, you are going to get a lot more. I mean, I do think that's a good play by the corner, but in the NFL, you're going to get a lot more leeway when it comes to as far as these 50-50 passes. And I think that's a good representation, excuse me, of what I think about with Marvin. In terms of, like, again, we're thinking peak ability. So he's setting this up to do the out route. And it's hard to see, so I understand if you're like, what are you talking about? But you see, he just doesn't sink his hips. And when he's going to the outside, it really shows up. He doesn't sink his hip, breaks down, and makes a sharp cut. He's just going to round this out. He's going to step, round this out. And the problem is the hips stay upright. Not necessarily tight, but they stay upright. And as a defensive back, a lot of times they'll teach you got to read the hips, because the hips going to tell you where the route is going. The head, the shoulders, all that might not tell you. The feet pattern, that might not tell you. But the hips, your body only going to go where your hips are going. So the hips tell you where it's going. So it's straight up, and it's not a fluid break. So those, not to say he was bad on that, but those are the type of things I talk about when I mention as far as the linear hips. So he drops that, but again, kind of one of those plays in space that we'll see. Actually, we see it right here. So you can see the type of yak runner he is. And I wouldn't say like dynamic or elite at all, but definitely physical. Not scared of contact. So again, against zone, just a quick hitter. And not to say that he can't get yak, but I don't anticipate that being his bread and butter. So then he just sits down against that zone. Now he's improvising. Again, attacking the ball, arms away from the frame. These are all the things, if I'm watching for the first time, that's the information I'm gathering. And if you watch the Caleb Williams, you remember that I say, like, you kind of gather information the first time around, then you start to see, is that a pattern? Do I see that happening throughout the game? So now we're on the wide side, off coverage, sits down, makes a catch, gets upfield. Had a switch release, ends up running a corner route. I mean, so, because I didn't even watch this play specifically, but now it's up to you to decide. Now, we could easily say the quarterback should have just not threw it, but we had the inside release again. This is zone. Got an off coverage, playing deep middle now. He sees this break, and safety breaks quickly. He falls, but he breaks quickly, sees this break. And now, I know there's so many, especially nowadays, because, again, West Coast was different. And West Coast was still the king when I came up in coaching. This is not what we would call a great route. And you look at the breaking point, it's so rounded. Again, he's so upright. And I would assume that's why the safety broke on it so fast, because you can see where exactly he's going. He doesn't sink the hips, because the thing when you sink your hips into a route, your lower body can start going before your upper body, and that's that's so weird. No, sorry, not a Marvin Harrison thing. I was about to say that's his dad said that. No, Jerry Rice said that. That's where I learned that from. And so when you sink your hips, again, you can get the lower body going, but his body is all linear, and this is why I say it's linear. It's all going at the same time together. And so you could pretty much kind of see where his routes are going. And then again, it's not a sharp cut, it's a rounded cut. And with what do you call them? Over routes, crosser routes, all these routes that people like now, people don't care as much that your routes aren't sharp. But when they aren't sharp and when they're rounded like this, it just gives more of a distance and a space and an angle for the defender to drive on it. And that's what I've kind of always learned. Now, obviously, the ball velocity is not there. But, again, if you got a guy that can throw it, it's not an issue. If you don't, then that's when those routes kind of matter. So then he just kind of sits down there. Takes what he can get. That was 3rd and 7. That's on the play calling. I wouldn't put that on him. So he's on the wide side. And this is against Maryland. For whatever that means to you. Now, something happened where he was wide open. Didn't really, oh, well, I guess they won't show it. He was just wide open. He beat those guys. We don't know how, but so can't say much there. A little pump and go. And those are the type of catches that get the people excited. They're like, okay, again, the concentration, the body control, the ball skills, the catch radius. So again, we got a fade route. Not really no separation. Ball's not placed in a good spot, but still able to get the call. So now a little play action pitch, a little improv to a fade. Wasn't able to complete that through traffic. He's at the bottom of our screen now. And they threw a lot of fade balls to him. And that's good tracking. I think those are one of those plays that people are like, look how elite the tracking is. And you can give him that. And there's an argument to be made that if you had a better quarterback, because he's clearly not off the line explosion. Like if I put on Neighbors, there'd be a noticeable difference. Not to say that he can't explode off the line, but he's definitely a strider. He's a build-up speed. He's almost 6'4". So there's a argument to be made that if you had a quarterback that could really put it in front of him, he'd be a lot more effective on those fade routes because he'll have time to build up his speed and get past guys. But the point at which they're throwing those fade balls, he has no separation because he hasn't built up to that speed, and that's been 2-3 games already. So this is just zone. I mean, really nothing. Zone, yes, you want to see awareness and sitting in the zone, but for the most part, against zone doesn't tell me a lot. That's why it's a zone. You find the hole in the zone. Usually it's based off the route design. So that was not a scramble drill, just a kind of a second play. Tried to react with the quarterback. Quarterback did not give him a catchable ball. Tried his best. Let's see. Marvin should. I can't even tell. This one's a little blurry. Okay. There's Marvin. And let's see. That's the man. Turned his man around. Now the man's whoever he is, he's in bail coverage. So he speeds, turns the wrong way. Able to break it outside. We got Marvin at the top of the screen here. Looked like a go to me. Yeah. I was like, that looked like an out and up. And just fighting, ball skills, all that. Terrible pass. But great play by Marvin. Attacking the ball, concentrating, seeing the ball. And it's I personally think it's guys that just have that, and you can see it. There's some guy, even it's not even necessarily catching the ball and having soft hands. It's just really an ability to have hand-eye coordination and vision, and that's really it to me. Let's back that one up. Marvin, I can't see where he comes from. So he's out of a bunch. I mean, it's not much of a route. So I feel like he wasn't primary or secondary, so he didn't really run the route. Puts it up there, comes back, tracks the ball, makes a good catch. Couldn't see the route. Maybe they'll show us. And this is Purdue. I don't think they got anyone coming out. Maybe they do. On the lower end. No top guys. Okay, off coverage. I mean, that's just speed. I have to be honest with you. I don't see that as winning with the route. To me, the route is pretty televised. It's just winning with speed, which is obviously part of it. But those are the things I see when I kind of formulate my discussion. Again, it's not to say, as you can see, it's not to say you can't be effective. It's just, for me, you're never going to be a top route runner. It's a good move after the catch there. And yeah, I mean, he's solid with the yak. That's I just don't see that being his calling card. Excuse me. Not scared of contact by any means, but more of a possession guy. So that last ball was just not catchable, so it didn't really matter. Got an outbreaking route. In zone. Well, it looked like it was zone. Play action. Flaring out. He could have gave him that ball. Made it a little bit harder. Good adjustment. 1 foot. We'll need 2 in the league, but we know he can do that. So Marvin down there. Looks like no, he works it out. I was going to say a curl, but works it outside. Couldn't really see exactly what happened. Not able to finish that catch through the traffic. Got Marvin here. Releasing out of the bunch. Wide open. That's a concentration drop. You don't see those too many from him. Couldn't see the route, but he got a great separation on that. Now a little dump off. And it's just, a guy that is explosive. He's a strong athlete, so you want to get it to him in space. But again, not necessarily a yak guy. So then we saw him just kind of fighting with the route, and I don't know if they're gonna replay that. Yeah, so let me back it up. So if you could see, Marvin wins this route at the top of the route. This would mean win at the top of the route. So at the top of the route, it's time to separate. We're together still. So instead of winning with my legs, he gets a little bit of a physical push off, and he's able to separate that way. And you need that in the league too. You think of a Mike Evans. Mike Evans wins that way a lot. So that's a medicine ball, as they used to say, but they throw those these days. I really don't think you should. But goes up strong, catches it with his hands away from the frame. Again, all the bread and butter stuff you like about Marvin. So now we're going to dump it off to him again. I think we've been going for about 7-ish minutes, so we'll probably wrap it up soon. We see a lot of the same stuff. Not a good pass. Again, looking for a screen. Just outside, I will say. You got to count that as a drop, but just outside of his reach. Corners, terrible. He never flipped his hips, but good separation by Marvin. Another bad pass there. And if you haven't really watched Marvin play to play, then you might be like, man, imagine him with a good quarterback. That's what a lot of people are saying. So a little skinny post. Ball's a little bit behind, but again, you gotta kind of say it's a drop. So you notice a little bit against traffic, but against traffic you see some other catches, but I do think you see a little bit of that trend. That's not one I brought up a whole lot, but I do see that kind of when you go through the season. But he's got every bit of the body type to make catches in traffic is what you expect. All right, so solo on the wide side. I don't know what that was supposed to be, but a great grab by 18. Again, that's what they like. The concentration, the ability to attack that. So now get zone wide open. Adjust, makes the catch. And honestly, to me, play like tackles like that is also why I'm like, I feel like his hips are linear. Already you see his hips are straight up. They haven't broke down at all. They're just running with him. But now in the open field, when you got to make a tackle, again, you're going to put that, you're looking at the hip as a tackler. So he's running. If he's any type of shifty, if he's the neighbors or something like that, you know, this is difficult. But I mean, his legs are long, and I don't really think he's super shifty. So, and again, it's not to knock him down, but it is to show what I've been talking about kind of throughout this season. Or this draft season, what I've been watching him is that his hips are just pretty linear to me. They're kind of straightforward. So another possession there. And I'm going to wrap it up after this Penn State game. So whenever that finishes. So Marvin out of the slot. Again, uncovers at the top. Then goes and attacks the ball. Not a lot of separation off the initial route. But at the top of the route, makes a good break actually. Didn't even have to get physical. Makes a good break. Goes up and attacks the ball. Little delayed drag here. Just looking to outrun. Again, open field tackle. Don't know how much of a, and not say you won't have yak, but you know that's just not his calling card to me. So I do think, I don't know if there's another play, but I do think you really kind of have an idea of who Marvin is. Like, his game is very strong in the areas he's strong in. And then the areas that aren't his flavor, he's not terrible at. As you can see, they want to get the ball to him. He's an athlete, so even though he's not a yak guy, they still try to get him in those situations. So none of his game is a weak point. It's just, you know, his strengths are his strengths. So we got a little mesh concept, get a rub there, try to get him open. Now I do think he had the good vision to navigate that well. He wasn't darting out of bounds. He used his blocks well and turned that play into a touchdown. So again, kind of just like I was saying, I don't think that's going to be his flavor in terms of yak. He's not a Debo, but I do think, again, you get him the ball in space, he'll be able to do what he has to do. All right, so we're going to jump over to Odunze. I just realized this is at full speed. Let's cut that down a little bit. So Odunze is right here. Sits down on the hitch, makes that guy miss, cuts it back. They end up causing a fumble from behind. So I believe Odunze is at the bottom of the screen here. I believe they got a couple guys that look the same. So Penix just gives him a chance. Corner has inside leverage, makes a good play. All right, Odunze kind of delayed back for a tunnel screen. And now, and again, I don't know if y'all can see it like I see it, but you can see his hips are different. His yak is different. He sinks down into, you see that plant like, what's it called? Almost like a whip route. You see that sink, boom, explode out of the break. I just don't see Marvin Harrison being able to do that. And even the way he runs with the ball after, I think, is different. And again, I don't know if y'all necessarily see that. I mean, he's going to get a lot of these screens too, just like Marvin did. So you'll be able to see just him running. But you see his plant his foot into the ground, sink his hips, dead leg. It just feels different. It feels like a different fluidity. I mean, it is for me. Again, I'm not trying to attack people because people take things the wrong way. So I'm saying I don't know if you see it, but for me, that is a complete difference in hip movement. And so for me already, that kind of turns on. Now, I think when you put on the film right after Marvin, he doesn't have the same body presence as Marvin, but obviously he's still a big body receiver. So downfield, out of bounds, or out of reach of Odunze. So we get to see the route. Delay release out the bunch. Push upfield. Top of the route, we got contact. Then the guy just lets him go. Nothing Odunze really did to get open there. All right, drop back. Odunze stops, adjusts, makes the catch. And he's just fighting through tackles. I think he's a little more physical after the catch. So again, we got the bottom here. Just a fade ball. 2nd and 1. I don't know. That's a weird call, but either way. Just a straight up fade ball on 2nd and 1. Middle of the field. Doesn't make the first grab, but through contact, concentration makes the play afterwards. So we got Odunze on this side. We don't see what happened, but obviously not catchable. Odunze at the bottom of the screen. And we didn't get any all 22 on this one. But ball's out of bounds, kind of tied up. All right, so now against Utah. I think they had a pretty good defensive unit, if I'm not mistaken. A weird concept. We had two people in the same area. So Odunze at the top of the screen. Looks like we had a straight fade. Kind of overshot him. Bottom of the screen. And I like that release. We'll go back. They show us. This is weird because Penix, obviously they show the highlights, but you don't see Penix miss all these times in a row. But anyway, you see the release. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's hard to, I have to really slow it down, but if you see, the corner's going to miss because his eyes are in the wrong place. Upper body and lower body are going to move at two different ways. So we open up, heads all that, hips are getting ready to break outside. So he doesn't really have to fight with him. He creates that release, or he creates that separation just off his release. Where's Odunze? Right here in the slot. They fake the bubble. And downfield, Odunze tracking the ball, adjusting. And I know they say Marvin Harrison, elite tracking, definitely. I think Odunze showed really good tracking as well. I would say between him and Marvin, that's a big difference with Neighbors. Not to say that Neighbors didn't, but I do think they have better skill set in that sense. Okay, never mind. Odunze is down here. Ball was out of reach. See, ball out of reach again, but you know, you see the catch radius, you see him attacking the ball, and how far, or I should say how close he is to getting the ball that's outthrown from him. And then it did make that catch, but adjusted to the ball, acrobatic move to go get the ball. Again, showing you some of those ball skills. And here, great tracking. Not a lot of separation, or really no separation on that route. Good tracking. So we got a release. Looks like we got a post. Probably had to adjust it, or no, actually not. Stayed on the post, across the middle. And I wish they would show us these routes. They showed us way more of Harrison's routes. So Odunze is down the field. Again, goes to adjust for the ball. Just a little bit out of reach. So Odunze with the inside release, looks like he's on a crosser. And he is. Wide open against that zone. Or is it a zone? We'll see. No, that's man coverage. And that's the scheme. He had that hard inside release. So corner went over the top to try to trail him. Just got lost. And Odunze here with a fade route that was really nice. We got off coverage. So again, and that's what I'm talking about. I mean, look, if you disagree, you know, God bless you. I just don't see Marvin Harrison able to do this. Because you watching his hips and the way he sinks into this, you believe slant. And he's able to explode out of that into the fade. I mean, there's a reason you that wide open in man coverage. And that's the potential, like you won't see it every play, but that's the potential type of route running I see with Odunze. And even when he has the ball in his hand, and it's like, man, okay, this guy has some fluid hips. So play action there. Guys like hugging him. Just out of reach. Well, I wouldn't say just out of reach, but out of reach. But again, you see the adjustments, the body contortions he does. And what people call him like a 50-50 elite. And that's one of the reasons, just the way he adjusts to the ball and the way he creates a catch radius. So if the ball's somewhere close, he's got a shot at going to get it. So gets that screen, they make that tackle. Gets him around the legs. Now that's the only thing with these guys. Now none of them end up measuring 6'4", but you had everybody coming out 6'4", so they're really about 6'3"-ish. Again, good adjustment there at the top of the route. But that's one of the things. all these guys that are tall, they can be explosive and fast, but man, they got long legs. And with the what is that thing called? The hip drop rule, man, I would be going for ankles. I don't know why people wouldn't be. So we're gonna go fake one way, go tunnel screen the other way. Again, gets his legs. Not able to keep his balance, but got a little bit. Look like Odunze is at the top, or the bottom of the screen. Now, drop that one. We saw the adjustment. Not an easy catch, but made the adjustment. Wasn't able to complete it. Medicine ball. Gave his guy an opportunity. Thankfully, he can get his stuff clean. Man, and this is what Tom Brady be talking about. They be throwing balls that you are not supposed to throw. So, back shoulder fade. I mean, there's nothing you could do against that. I mean, most players, even if they're not top receivers, a good back shoulder fade, ain't a lot you could do against that. But you see, and really that wasn't even a great back shoulder fade. That placement wasn't great. But Odunze shielded the defender off and made that play. All right, so we'll watch a couple from here and then we'll wrap it up. Man, this was not a diss track against Penix, but he out here missing passes. I just didn't recall him missing this many, but I guess when you put all the games back to back. And incomplete, but you see the adjustment there. Goes up, leaves the ground, attack the ball. Doesn't come down with it. Odunze at the top of the screen. Against Bell technique. Yep, just sit down. I was just about to say, just sit down against it. Makes the corner miss. After redirecting after the catch, gets a little bit of extra yards. I was gonna say a couple yards, a little bit, and then I said a couple bit. And you just see that that plant. I wouldn't say a juke move, but that step. I don't even know. I was about to say step. I don't even know what to call it. But it's moves like that tell me he got a little bit more yak in him than a Marvin Harrison. And that one didn't really go anywhere. This time he's kind of H-back. Releases right up the rail with man, that was a great design play. Nobody wasn't even looking for him. He just did a fade from the H-back position. I wish... I wonder if we'll run into one of the goal line plays. But as I said, he lines up at tight end on goal line. That tells you all you need to about his blocking and his nastiness. And again, we don't see that because we're looking at targets. But if we were to watch every play, you'll see how really effective he is as a blocker. And Washington in general, all those guys are blockers. It reminds you of San Fran. So anyway, late throw to Odunze, tacks it, keeps it away from the defender, and still breaks a tackle. And then we'll stop after this one. I believe bottom of the screen we got Odunze. Little comeback, catches it. Not really going down. All right, so again, I've talked throughout the offseason about my thoughts about Odunze and Harrison. I've said many times before, Odunze is my number one. A little bit of different flavors, but overall, I think people just got to remember that to me is 1A, 1B, and 1C. So even if I think Odunze for me is better slightly, it's not a lot. But one thing I will definitively push against is this idea that Marvin Harrison is some generational talent. I mean, if he is, then there's 3 generational talents coming out in this draft. Neighbors, again, much different flavor than these two, but elite traits. And so I think you look at these 3 guys and it's absolutely impressive. But I just don't think, like, I'm not putting Marvin up there with Calvin Johnson or Randy Moss, and I'm not putting Odunze up there with them either. But I put Odunze and Harrison together because I definitely think they have a similar ability. So you see the ability to go up and get the ball, go up and attack a 50-50 ball, the concentration, you see all that, the body control. But for me with Odunze, he's just got more fluid hips, and I think that's better potential for routes. I already think he's a little bit better at routes, and I think it's better potential down the line. I think it's better potential for yak ability too, so that's why I got Odunze. But go down to the comment section, let me know what you think, share it around, get the conversation started, and remember, stay up and bear down.